What's up, you beautiful people? I hope everybody is having a fantastic Wednesday. You, of course, are watching the Daily Dirty 30 here on The Kevin Lee Show, and I am your host, Kevin Lee. Now, for those of you who do not know what the DDT is all about, let me tell you. It is a show that airs at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, live Monday through Friday. And it's basically a show where I get to spend 30 minutes telling you all about the things that bothered me most today. Now, you might be asking yourself, what does this guy get out of it? Well, to be honest, therapy, cheap therapy. And what do you get? Entertainment. Sound fair? Good. Let's get to it. So today, as you can see on the screen, it says we have slippery slopes. That is actually going to be the theme of the day, at least for the first half. There's actually a lot I want to cram into here, and I'm sorry if I rush through too much, too quickly. But again, I just want to get it out there and be honest. The reason why I'm bringing up slippery slopes is simple. Slippery slopes has to do with the fact of masks. Now, before you get all angry and upset, think I'm going to be doing some conspiracy thing. I'm not. I'm not saying masks are bad or evil or there's some vast, strange thing going on where people are trying to be brainwashed or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's not either, but that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about what is going on. Now, to support this, I'm actually going to be playing you a couple of audio samples. The first one is going to be one you've probably heard. It's been around for quite a while. Not quite a while. It's been around, cannot speak again today, for about a week or two, but it's been played a lot everywhere you go on radio shows and TV shows and what have you. But I think it is important for this setup. So I'm not even sure how long this is. I think it's about a minute long, maybe not even. So just sit back, relax, and listen.
It's just a mask. It's just 2 weeks. It's just so we don't overwhelm the hospitals. It's just non-essential businesses. It's just until the cases go down more. It's just until we get a vaccine. It's just a few side effects. It's just a bracelet. It's just to let others know you're safe to be around. It's just an app. It's just to let others know who you've been in contact with. It's just a few more months. It's just a video. It's just an email account. It's just a credit card company you can use cash. It's just a few places that won't take cash. It's just a little chip. It's just for medical information and paying for things. It's just for travel. It's just so you can get your driver's license. It's just so you can vote. It's just a few more years. It's just a statue. It's just a building. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a flag. It's just a piece of cloth. It's just a blood test. It's just a scan. It's just a chip. Just a dog. It's just a clump of cells. It's just the bad people. It's just the undesirables. It's just the Jews. It's just the Christians. Just the people who don't think like us. It's just a mask.
So, I have a feeling you hopefully were paying attention to that long enough to realize where that got to from beginning to end. So, yes, it's just a mask. And this mask might be a valuable tool for us today, at least for certain people. If you want to follow certain reports of scientific review, it'll tell you that the mask is saving lives and helping people. Now, you can read other studies that say that it's fairly ineffective, but should we be doing something? Yes, right? So I think most people are willing to wear a mask. That being said, where does it stop? They've already talked about doing contact tracing, which they're arguing is a good thing, and some people are getting nervous about it. Liberty-minded people like myself are starting to worry when they start talking about things about not even vaccines, but mandatory vaccines. And that fact that they are talking about not necessarily the government, but small sections of the government, say in particular states or even with jobs and companies, are talking about possibly implementing plans where employees will not be able to come to work unless they are cleared and free or found to be vaccinated or immune to COVID-19. Now, on the surface, most people look at that and say, hey, that makes perfect sense. We want people to be safe. We need people to be safe. We can do this, right? Well, how far are we willing to give up our rights to do that? Now, again, as she was saying, starts with a mask, goes to this, goes to that, goes to vaccinations, goes to chips, because a lot of people are talking about ID 2020, which is frighteningly a company that is, at least in major part, owned by Bill Gates, or the Bill Gates Foundation. But I think it's actually Bill Gates. And he has a plan to create a vaccination for vaccinations that will actually include a chip that goes inside of you so you can be registered. Well, for good reason, a lot of people are worried about this type of action. That being said, it doesn't end there. So that was one example of a person showing you a slippery slope, if you will, right? So let's jump to another one. This one is also called It's Just a Mask. And this one was actually done by a comedy troupe. I believe they're called the United Spot. Now, when you listen to this, you might pick up, leanings of one way or the other, and that's fine. But it's the message that's being delivered, which is important. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and play this, and we'll talk about it when we're done, shall we?
It's just a mask, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good. It's just a vaccine, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good. In 4 months, the U.S. was transformed into an obedient socialist country. Government dictated what events are acceptable to attend. Violent protests that instill fear are okay. But church services, family funerals, and patriotic celebrations are dangerous. And you bought it without a fight. Standing in a graduation line is a safety hazard. Small businesses were forced to close, but crowds to support the corporate money machine at Walmart, Lowe's, and Home Depot are okay. Come on! It's just a mask. And safety precautions. How about a little hush money? Here's $2,400 that we stole out of your paycheck in the first place. Enjoy. Buy something with it from a big corporation. Cash is dirty. We can't give change. There's a coin shortage. Use your card. In 4 months, they convince you to use a traceable card for everything. In less than 4 months, government closed public schools, then restructured education under the guise of public safety. In less than 4 months, our government demonstrated how easily people assimilate to guidelines that have no scientific premise whatsoever when you are fearful. In less than 4 months, our government successfully instilled fear in a majority of the population in America that allows them to control every aspect of your life, including what you eat, where you go, who you see, and your toilet paper. And the most dangerous and terrifying part, people are not afraid of the government who removed their freedom. They're afraid of their neighbors, family, and friends. And they hate those that won't comply. It's absolutely terrifying to me that so many people don't question authority. They are willing to surrender their critical thinking skills and independence. They just gave up without thinking, without a fight. Do you know what's coming next? It's just a vaccine. Come on, it's for the greater good. Wait until you're told that you can't enter any store or business without proof of the COVID-19 vaccine. Wait until you can't go to public events or get on a plane without proof of receiving the vaccine. Don't think it's possible? Well, you already allowed the government to say when you can go outside, where you're allowed to go, and accepted a new unproven digital education for your kids in the last 100 days. You followed blindly because you were told to do so. You're kidding yourself if you think the mass behavior won't be repeated with a vaccine or whatever the next step is. I don't follow politics. I don't care about that stuff. I don't think about it. 6 million Jewish people were exterminated in Germany because 97% of the population cowered to populist control. Nobody wanted to think about it. It's easier just to ignore it. But that couldn't happen here in America, right? They got you. Without a thought, without a fight. Just like France, just like Russia. just like China. Welcome, comrade.
So, I want to say there's a lot to unpack there, but there's not. There is some to unpacked there. Again, my goodness. You know what? Maybe I'll start doing these shows a little earlier because by the end of the day, my mouth, my body are so tired, I cannot speak properly, so I apologize. But again, this was called It's Just a Mask. And it was meant for somewhat for humorous purposes, but obviously there's some truth that they're trying to spread through their comedy, which I think a lot of people in comedy actually do. Right? I think so. And again, it's a slippery slope. How can you deny it? I mean, we've gone to a place where if you were to say a year ago, last summer, that next year, all the things that have happened in the first 6 months of this year, and not even the first 6 months, because really nothing started happening until somewhere in end of February, maybe even, in like state levels, nothing even happened until like mid-March. And we're just into January, or we're just into July. So think about that just for a second. How far we've devolved in our civil rights. Let's put it that way. Our civil liberties, not civil rights, civil liberties. Well, I guess our rights as well. How quickly we've given up everything, and how much people are talking about giving up even more. Think about it. You turn on the news and you see talks about vaccinations. In fact, I just heard us on the radio today talking about how there are already many states trying to pass legislation that will require vaccinations. Now, how can they require a vaccination for an adult, especially against something that apparently has a death rate of far less than 1%? Seems kind of sketchy, doesn't it? And a lot of people are just going to go through with it, like the guy was saying in the video. People just give in. I mean, everyone wants to look back and judge past societies, like Nazi Germany. And like you said, 97% of people just kind of sat there and said, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. So what we're going to do. Didn't fight a damn thing. And look what happened. 6 million people were literally murdered. How easy has it been to push people over in this short period of time? How many people do you know, and regardless if they're on the left or right, it doesn't matter. I know people who are conservatives as well as liberals who are willing to give up all their rights for safety. But is that a good idea? I think it's a terrible idea. Personally, now I can't speak for you, and I would never want to speak for you. But I don't want you to speak for me either, right? I have things that I stand for that you may not. And I know you probably have things that you stand for that I know that I don't. But I will defend your rights for you to stand for them, and I hope you'll defend my right to stand for them. Now, as far as it comes to wearing a mask, generally speaking, I've been fairly compliant for the most part. I mean, I did not start ever wearing one until literally the day they made it mandatory in Illinois. And even then, I've only worn it in a grocery store. Yeah, that's it. The only place I've ever worn it is a grocery store. Of course, I haven't had to go to many other places. A couple other small stores and zipped in, zipped out. No one said anything. But when I was going in the grocery store, I knew I'd be in there for a long time, probably half an hour, 45 minutes. And there's no way I'm going to get away without confrontation for 45 minutes, especially not in the suburbs. We have a lot of Karens here. Let's put it that way. Like the video yesterday. But anyways, people want to say that the government would never require you to get a vaccination. People would want to say that the government would never require you to get some type of marking system on your body, something that you would be forced to carry with you that would show others that you're clean, or fill in your own term. But do you really think the government at this point has passed that? I mean, think about all the things that they've put into place just over the recent time, right? Sorry, unfortunately, I'm running out of monitor space, and I had to throw one of my comment sections up here, so I have to check periodically to make sure that nobody's commenting up there, so sorry. But I figured I would tell you why I keep looking up. We have a right to our own personal bodily autonomy. And this is something that I think most people, and not even just Americans, just most people in general, aren't aware of. Like, I am me and you are you, and I have no right to physically do anything to you is in the same right that in the same way that you have no right to do anything physically to me. I deserve my freedoms and you deserve yours. Now, as long as I'm not stepping over your rights, I should be allowed to do whatever I want. And as long as you're not stepping over my rights, you should be allowed to do whatever you want to do. Now, of course, this can be some gray area because let's face it, if this thing is communicable through droplets, as they believe it to be, that is the reason why many states and many areas and many businesses are requiring people to wear masks. And again, for me, this is a slippery slope already because I see down the field where this is going. It's like being a quarterback in football, right? Most people, when they think of sports or they've played sports, let's say the average guy, who doesn't have a high school football story, right? Many guys played football in high school, and they always have a story. But the thing is, if you notice, most of them were a lineman or a center or a receiver or a linebacker or a running back, and they had one job. Well, maybe a couple jobs inside that job, but that was basically their prime job. They were there to catch the ball, block, run the ball, whatever it might be, make a tackle, cover someone, run down the field. That was their job. Now, when I played football in high school, I literally played every single play of the game. I was on offense. I was on defense. I was the deep man on punt and kick returns. So I was never off the field. And I learned to have to see the field at all times from every aspect. And that made me a better player. And in the same way, many people who are a quarterback or could imagine what a quarterback does, their job is to take the ball, take a few steps back, look at the field and be able to read everything that's going on, right? So we don't just see what's right in front of us. We see what's down the field. We see what we know in our head in the plan of where someone's supposed to be running, and we can envision where that's supposed to be before it's even happening, right? In the same way, that's how my life is now as a libertarian. I see what's going on down the field. I can tell 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, 20 steps ahead sometimes about what's coming next. And I think a lot of people can do that if they actually bother to try, because I think most people out there are intelligent. And I know a lot of people want to say, oh, everyone's an idiot. I don't think so. I think most people are intelligent. I think most people are scared right now. I think most people are worried and sad. And probably more than anything, most people are just tired. I mean, think about how exhausting this year has been. I mean, you start talking about all the politics going on, everything going on with Russiagate and everything going on with the impeachment, everything going on with everything the Senate's doing, everything that the House is doing, everything that President Trump's doing. We're going into it, trying to nominate people for positions or for candidates so they can run for presidency. Then we have to deal with all that headache that we're in now. I mean, it's been everything with coronavirus, everything with the lockdowns, everything with schools shutting down. Everything has just been messed up. Everyone is exhausted. And because of that, people just don't want to fight anymore. But that's the thing I'm telling you. We gotta learn to fight. We have to get that fire back in our bellies and learn that if we don't fight now, just in the same way that the Germans didn't fight back in World War II, we could get run over by our own government. We could get railroaded, be forced to do things that we would never do in our right mind. Being honest with you, okay? Something that we should be very, very serious about. Now, I want to change gears because this is something that I wasn't even planning on talking about, and I kind of came across about it earlier, and I only read a tiny little bit of it, but it just got my mind, just rolling here because it is something that appeared on Twitter, surprise, but it is let me just read it to you and then I'll show it to you. So, well, it's a thread, so I'm just going to read you the first little tweet and then it'll kind of set the stage and then I'll show it for you because he has visuals. And this is by someone named Christopher F. Rufo. No idea who he is. And this was to do with training. Oh, actually, I think I missed the first. Oh, it's up here. Okay. So his first tweet said, critical race theory is spreading rapidly through the federal government. Now, right there should just be kind of a what? What are you saying? It says, last week, a whistleblower sent me a trove of documents about a divisive diversity training at the Treasury Department. What I discovered is deeply disturbing and an affront to equality. Buckle up. So, because of that, let me start. I have to reshare that screen. Hold on one sec. Okay, so this is what I just read to you, right? This is by this Christopher F. Rufo. And this is the part that I just read to you. Now it goes on. Okay, it's a thread. And it says the training is called Difficult Conversations About Race. Now, a lot of people are going to hear that and go, okay, what's the big deal? It's just some diversity training. Well, the fact that you're not bothered by the term of diversity training is probably alarming to me and to many people who think like me. But I understand why you might think the way you do. Maybe. But it says here it's difficult conversations about race and calls on white employees, only white employees, mind you, at Treasury, Federal Reserve, FDIC, CFPB, and NCUA to pledge allyship amid the George Floyd tragedy. Now, again, they are responding to something that was sorry, I'm wearing my glasses that don't allow me to see without tilting my head, so I apologize. The goal is explicit: to convert everyone in the federal government to anti-racism. Again, this is a term, anti-racism, that's popping up. There's this book called White Fragility, and I don't know if you've ever read it, but if you haven't, don't. Or unless you really want to just, educate yourself, then go ahead and do it. But it is, to me, potentially not a good concept. But on here, let's see. All right, it's not really going to help there, is it? No. So that's not going to be much help. Okay, so so this is where he starts getting into it. It says, to begin, the trainers set the ground rules. They claim that virtually all white people contribute to racism. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I know there's a number of people out there who actually believe what I just said. I'll say it again. They claim that virtually all white people contribute to racism. Now, that might have been true 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Maybe not. I mean, I have to believe that there were plenty of people 100 years ago, and especially 50 years ago, who didn't contribute to racism. But see, how they get you is, well, it'll reveal itself in a minute. I don't want to ruin the surprise. It says, and insist that white employees must struggle to own their racism and accept their unconscious bias, white privilege, and white fragility. Now, again, this is what this book is all about. This white fragility is all about white privilege and unconscious bias. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of what this concept is, it's actually rather simple. It's saying that you are unaware that you unconsciously do things which are obviously racist and hurt other races. And there's no way you can know about it, no way you can stop it. Now, how are you supposed to defend yourself against that? How are you, I mean, scientifically speaking, people are making a claim that you are unaware of it, and you can never be aware of it, and you can't see it. So that's almost like a scientist saying that God exists because we cannot see him and because we cannot know him. Would that make any sense to you? No, of course not. But yet they're trying to tell you that this unconscious bias exists because you can't see it and you can't not recognize it. But it exists because it has to. Now, as far as this goes, I don't know if this is going to be big enough for everyone to see. I apologize if it's not. There's a few parts here that he underlined. Hold on a second. Okay. White people struggle to own the... So basically, he's just underlining the sections that support what he was just claiming in the thread of the tweet. Again, virtually all white people, regardless of how woke they are, contribute to racism. Okay. Whiteness, which includes white privilege and white supremacy. Now, see, now they brought it up a level. Okay. There is much learning to do about race, racism, and whiteness, which includes white privilege and white supremacy. The fact that they're choosing to use that is rather frightening. Hold on. I think there was one more. Yeah, there's one more here. It is imperative at this time that people who are white invest in race-based growth and development on topics such as systemic racism, civil rights history, unconscious bias, inclusion, and contemporary ideology such as anti-racism, intersectionality, white privilege, and white fragility. Okay, so there is a lot to unravel there, but we're already at 24 minutes, so I don't want to do it. But I do want to recommend, that you read more into this tweet. So I'm going to put this out there on my social media, and I'm going to probably include it in the description of this video. And I want you to just read the thread and read all the documentation that the U.S. government, your government, is making, not allowing, not suggesting, forcing federal employees to have to not only endure, but agree with, to keep their jobs, mind you. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else. So let me just read another slide. I'll go as long as I can. I got a few more minutes. Next, the trainers recommended white managers create safe spaces for listening sessions where Black employees can explain what it means to be Black and to be seen in their pain. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that there are Black people who do feel like they're living in a different world and they get treated a different way. I don't want to take away from any of that. Okay, that's about individualism. That's something I'm all about. But I don't necessarily think it's systemic. Okay, just don't. I'm going to be honest with you. And if you think it is, then please tell me. Let me know in the comments. We'll have a conversation about it. I'd be more than happy to. Hell, I'll have you on this show and you can tell everybody about it. But yeah, that is a bit bothersome. It says the trainers insist that whites hold fairly consistent narratives about race and don't support the dismantling of racist institutions. Now, again, how do you define a racist institution? Are you talking about the headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan? Are you talking about your local library? You think I'm kidding? There's people who've suggested that the library is racist. Look into it. Google it. Hell, don't even Google it. Stay away from Google. Can I just say that? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Google started out as a great company and developing great products. And I still think they do some good. Don't get me wrong. I do. But there are so many other searches out there that you can use. I would recommend maybe DuckDuckGo. Even on if you use Safari, you use Chrome, you can actually choose to use a different search engine. I just recommend trying it for a week. Just change it to DuckDuckGo on your phone or on your computer and see where it takes you. Be interesting if you notice what kind of different results you might get. Something to keep in mind. I know I'm going on tangents here, but that's kind of what this is all about. They claim the expressions we should be more colorblind, and we've made so much progress from the 1960s are in fact racist statements. I'm going to actually end it here because I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but there is a wonderful video out there by Morgan Freeman. He was being interviewed, and there's actually more than one interview, so you can just Google Morgan Freeman on race, and you'll see what I'm talking about because he's done it with a number of people, with Don Lemon, Mike Wallace. I think there was another interview as well, and he gives almost verbatim the exact answer on how to answer racism. And I'm very quickly going to try to surmise it for you now. When asked about it, he said the way you end racism is you don't talk about it. Now, this is exactly what this says. It's saying that, well, that's racist to say they don't talk about it. But is it? Because the only time you actually further things along down the road is you keep talking about it. Now, that could be a good thing sometimes. If you want something to be addressed, you just keep talking about it until someone addresses it. But if you want something to go away, you stop talking about it. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's just ignorant. But is it? I don't think it is. In fact, psychology doesn't think it is either. Look into it. I have. And there are many studies that show that the way that you get over something is not by dwelling upon it. It's by accepting it and moving on. Has America been racist in our history? Of course we have. Have we done terrible things? Yes, we've done terrible things. But guess what? We don't always have to do those terrible things. But when we're reminded about them constantly, we talk about them constantly, guess what? We continue to do it. We continue to talk about it. So, yeah, I recommend you highly go over, and I would have actually pulled up the video right now, but I don't have time, and I didn't even think about it before I went on this rant, so I apologize. But look at just search for Morgan Freeman and on how to end racism, and you'll see the video pop right up. Watch it, and then afterwards, watch it again, and then afterwards, watch it again. And again, what he fully says is, the way you end racism is you don't talk about it. He goes, when I look at you, I look at you as a man. And when you look at me, I don't want you to look at me as a black man. The end. So on that happy note, I hope everyone has a good rest of your Wednesday. I hope you have a good day tomorrow, and I can't wait to see you again, hopefully. Until then, this has been the Daily Dirty 30, and I am Kevin, and have a good one. Bye.